Welcome to this episode of the Biology of Trauma podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Aimie. Are you a sensitive person? Are you an empath with a more sensitive and perceptive system? What is happening is that our nervous system is picking up more information, receiving information that others don't, feeling things that others don't, which means sometimes having an uncontrollable body response to imperceptible changes in the environment. Like being in a noisy crowd and not able to turn it off. Our sensitivity can lead to overwhelm, which leads me to the hard truth that while being sensitive may sometimes be a superpower, it more often than not is a reason for overwhelming our system and causing a trauma response in our body. Pretty soon, we can be having emotional meltdowns or physical health symptoms that are embarrassing or ones that we think are just random. In this episode, I chat with Dr. Judith Orloff to explore the ways in which this can lead to greater susceptibility to trauma, as well as how to embrace the unique gifts and some practical strategies for empaths. Dr. Orloff is a UCLA-trained psychiatrist and has been called the godmother of the empath movement. She synthesizes traditional medicine with cutting-edge knowledge of intuition, energy, and spirituality, and believes in the power of integrating all of this wisdom. Why are empaths more susceptible to experiencing trauma than most? We will answer that question and more in this episode. Here's what you will learn. Why highly sensitive people are more prone to trauma, the different types of overwhelming situations an empath might encounter, the hidden needs of empaths, and why they are more vulnerable to physical health symptoms and which ones. How this level of sensitivity can actually be a superpower, and the practical strategies like sensory inventories and boundary setting to not just survive, but thrive as an empath. Regardless of whether you are a highly sensitive person or you help people who are highly sensitive and empaths, you will enjoy this episode. Let's get started. Dr. Orloff, it seems that those people who are empaths and highly sensitive people, they actually experience more trauma throughout their lifetime. And that doesn't seem fair. So what's going on in their internally, like in their nervous system that actually seems to make them experience more trauma in their lifetime?
I'm just, in terms of my background, I'm a psychiatrist and I'm an empath. So I combine both my psychiatric knowledge and USC medical training and UCLA psychiatric residency training and VA internship training with my empath abilities. And so I grew up as an only child and I was an empath child and had, very open sensitivities. Empaths don't have the usual filters that other people have, so they tend to process more information. Like I feel more than, let's say, my partner feels, because he doesn't feel certain things because he's not an empath. But I feel everything that's going on in my body. I feel the energy is going on outside. And so in terms of the question about trauma, empaths aren't just open to trauma, they're open to everything. And it can feel traumatic when you're young, especially if you're a child, because if you don't have any guidance. Children need guidance in terms of how to deal with this super or feeler state. Now, how do you deal with it? I believe in having children educated from the very beginning. They don't even need to talk, and you could kind of show them, how to deal with the world. Because oftentimes empath children put their hands up like this because they feel the world that early through their hands, which is so interesting. Or you see a baby is born. Sometimes you can see like some are more sensitive and others are just, ready to come into this plane and do whatever they're going to do. But the empath children are very open. And so what we're defining as trauma or unrest or dysfunction is that we don't know how, from a very young age, to process all the sensory and energetic input that's coming at us. And so in that sense, we're more open to it. Do we experience more traumatic events than other people? I don't think so necessarily. I think it's how we process the world, which can be traumatic if it isn't given the proper guidance. And so once you can educate an empath, as you're doing, as we're doing together, the empath parents could learn how to help their sensitive children so they don't perceive overstimulation as a trauma.